Development number 5 is developing a cone. Would be the same concept you'd use as a funnel or we'll use later on in other projects. The idea of a cone is kind of like a combination between the pyramid that we just did in development number 4 and a cylinder. They kind of combine the two because it's a cylinder that comes to a point. So in the same way, we're going to go ahead and start by creating the top view and the front view. We can see that the diameter of this cone is 2.5 inches. So I'm going to start out by creating a diameter of 2.5 inch circle. And then I'm going to create the front view. So the front view I'm going to track down 1 inch to give me some space. And I know that the height of this is 2.5 inches. I could go ahead and draw my circle in here, my bottom line to it. So that's 1.25 inches to one side. I track back across the 2.5. Like I said, I just don't like to do double lines. So I take a few more steps to avoid that. I could delete that line out, or I could stretch it out and make it my center line. In the same way that we did on a pyramid, we would need to go ahead and measure the side length on this to go ahead and get the true size of our circle that we need over here to start creating our cone. I'm going to once again use a circle to do that, and I can move it off to the side. Now, if you remember back to when I created my first cylinder, I did not go ahead and put all the lines dividing up the top circle like the textbook demonstrated. At this point, we're going to have to go ahead and do that to go ahead and figure out how to create the rest of this object. I drew this line in like I did when I created the pyramid. And now what would be ideal is if we had a chord length or a length going around the outside of this circle equal to the circumference of this circle, and we just draw a line to connect that and have our pyramid. Since we can't go ahead and set that up, what we are going to do is we're going to roughly measure that distance around. The way we're going to do that is coming back to what I skipped when I created the cylinder. If I put that line in there, I can go ahead and do a polar array. You may have to drop down to get polar. I can select my line. I can select the center, and I can say how many pieces I want divided into. Essentially what we're going to do is we're going to measure the distance from one intersection to the next intersection as a straight line and put that over here for our radius, which is going to get us pretty close to the right measurements going around. Now, depending on who you talk to, will tell you how many of these pieces that you actually want to divide your circle into. The more pieces that you divide it into, the more accurate that your measurements are going to be when you create your cone. I would say that most people agree on the area of about 12 divisions. If you want a really accurate cone, you might go ahead and go with 20 or 30. If you want a less accurate cone, just to get it done quickly, you might go ahead and go with something like 6. I'm going to set mine to 12 divisions. And that should go ahead and give me 12 equally divided pieces. I'm going to close out of array. Now all I need to do is measure the distance with a circle from one intersection to the other. So I know the radius of this circle is now one of my 12 segments going around. I can now move that circle down into my object here, and I could copy it several times if I want to. First, I want to draw this line to demonstrate. So right there is one segment. I need 12 of those going around. I could mirror them like I did with my pyramid. I could do any number of things to get them out there. That represents one of these little segments that we see in the top view. I'm going to go ahead and copy the circles because that's going to be a technique that I use later when I explain items. I'm not really keeping track of how many I copy right now. I figure I can count them later when I draw the lines. So that should be probably more than enough. I already have one segment created. So if I draw this line, that gives me, and I need to make sure I get the right point. Okay, so these are coming real close together. I've got to be careful what point I go ahead and select. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick regen to check this out. Make sure that everything's smooth. So what I'm afraid of is that I might have gone ahead and clicked the wrong points each time I put the circle in. So we can see that that circle snaps somewhere in between instead of on that intersection. So I'm going to undo this. I'm going to try that copy again. So I'm going to copy according to that circle, get that endpoint, Okay, so my circle was not originally at the endpoint I wanted. So this is a mistake you might have too. It's sometimes hard to get things lined up exactly. So I'm going to move it according to its center to the endpoint. And I have to correct this one as well, just like that. Now if I go ahead and copy my circle on around, it should go ahead and work a little bit better. There we go. So I'm seeing everything line up. That tells me that I'm doing a better job. I can go ahead and copy those on around. And I'm going to go ahead and construct the lines like I originally started to demonstrate. So that would come down to that intersection, back up. So that's 3 segments, 4 segments, 5, 6. And I could keep going, but if I've already got 6 segments, I could go ahead and clean this up and mirror it 6 double to give me my 12 that I want. So I'm erasing all these out of here. And I'm going to do a mirror of everything except for this middle line and mirror it over that middle line. Should go ahead and give me my 12 segments. Now I could trim this outer circle off. Then go ahead and put a tab on one of these sides. That way as the cone wraps around, it attaches to itself over here. I can draw that angle in here. Trim. Then they go ahead and add a bottom to it. So the bottom is going to be just like the circle that we already had for our top view. I could go ahead and move that over here. Let's go ahead and move it now according to its quadrant and snap it to that quadrant. It makes it easy to snap it together. That bottom would then be seamed on or sealed on some way once the cone was created if we wanted a cone or a bottom to it. If we were going to create a funnel, we wouldn't want a bottom to it. That'd be where the material entered. So this is a basic cone. In a later video, I'll demonstrate how to do more complex cones.